Okay, guys, I have some extremely exciting news. So please do not skip forward just to the draft. I promise you the draft is going to be coming very quickly. But the exciting news I have instead is actually we have a ton of things going on Patreon right now. Okay, so y'all know that through Patreon, what we've been doing is pretty much once a week we've been updating our rookie rankings when we see that NFL scouts, we see that mock drafts for those landing spots have consistently been changing. Like the perfect example of this would be Mac Jones started way too low in our Superflex rookie rankings, and the more likely it looks that he may be going to San Francisco, we've been moving him up. We've been having to make those necessary adjustments. So that's one exciting thing we've been doing on Patreon. But the more exciting thing is for everybody wanting to join, for everybody currently on Patreon, you probably already saw this announcement, but we have lowered the prices for our Patreon tiers. Now, the reason that we did this is I want to continue to grow the flock. I want us to continue to get bigger. I mean, we're closing in on 4,000 subscribers now. So, of course, that is a major motivating factor. But more importantly, the reason that I had it at such a high mark is just simply I couldn't have that many people joining Patreon. So y'all know that I am graduating this semester. Not only am I graduating, I take way more hours than the average college student. I'm actually graduating with 2 separate degrees from 2 separate colleges at the University of Texas. So what that requires is I literally have to take so many hours that I have to meet with the dean to get special permission. And I literally wake up, guys, I am not joking, at 6 a.m. and I work until about 10, 11 p.m. every single day, whether that's school or the YouTube channel. So because of that, I simply have not had time to actually go out there and do these just dynasty in-depth write-ups where, yes, we spend a lot of time doing them every single day. I probably write up 2 to 3 teams a day, and it takes me about an hour to 2. But now that I'm graduating this semester, I should have way more time to actually be able to go out there and actually be able to get you more dynasty write-ups. So that's why we're lowering the price. And also a very exciting announcement that we are going to be doing with Patreon is I know a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of people that have their podcasts, they go through and they sell their dynasty draft kits. They sell their fantasy football redraft draft kits every single year. And it's pretty expensive. I mean, usually they sell for like $60 to $80. Where I don't want to do that. Like I said at the beginning of the video, my number one goal at this point is to continue to grow the flock. So anybody in the Mother Flocker tier on Patreon, you are going to get our draft kit for completely, I don't want to say free because obviously you're making that pledge at the end of the month, but you don't have to pay anything extra. We are just going to be giving you our draft kit through that. And also, if you are in the tier below, if you are in the Flocker tier, you are going to have access to our rookie rankings, as well as our general 2021 fantasy football rankings. I don't know if you'll have access to the entire draft kit though, just because that is going to take me so much time. Okay, but anyway, what I want to do now is let me get y'all the link out to Patreon if y'all want to support the show. Also, if you want to get in this mock draft right now, y'all know what you have to do. You have to message me on Patreon. I'm assuming that we already have a decent amount of DMs over there to join. Okay, and I know we have had a lot of people asking me, Mason, when is the next Patreon startup going to be? It is going to be this week. I'm going to get those invites out tonight or tomorrow. So if you're on the invite list, make sure you're just on the lookout for that. I promise you guys, I'm trying to get those going ASAP. I've had so much fun, and I want to say dominating the Flock 2 Patreon Dynasty startup. But anyway, let me get this out. Okay, so that should be sent. Also, guys, please let me know if there's anything wrong with the stream. Let me go over real quick, grab the link to send people invites to this mock draft. I'm assuming we have a decent amount of DMs on Patreon already, because I'm assuming that a decent amount of people already know that you have to shoot me that DM to get in the mock draft. Okay, yeah, so we already have these DMs. Let me send them out. Dom, got you. Blah, blah, blah. Nick, got you. Drew, got you. Adam, should all be sent out. So if you sent me a DM to get in this mock draft, hopefully it's sent out by now. I do not think I missed any DMs. Looks like we should have about 3 or 4 spots still open if you want to go through and if you want to shoot me that DM. But more importantly, guys, I forgot to mention this. Why I needed to make that announcement is Patreon doesn't allow me to edit tiers. So if you were paying $10 a month in the Flocker tier, and now we have that new Flocker tier at $7 a month, I cannot manually change your subscription, just because I think that would be extremely risky on Patreon part, to make sure that creators don't just manually keep on changing those pledges, because that would be kind of sketchy. That would not necessarily be a good business move by them. So yeah, you have to actually go over to Patreon and you have to cancel your current subscription and edit it to the new pledge, where you get everything that you got before. And in the case of the Mother Flocker tier, you actually get a little bit more than you got before. And it's just less money because I have more time to devote to Patreon. So let's go through and getting y'all these links out right now. Okay, looks like we should have 2 spots left in this mock draft. Let me check the general chat real quick, see if we have any questions though. And I see y'all have already smashed that like button. Thank y'all so much, guys. Anthony saying, Mason, you should make TikToks, utilize everything to grow the flock. Guys, please let me know right now, is there anybody in Dynasty making TikToks? I was definitely planning on doing it this upcoming football season, but TikTok is not something that I'm used to. I made a personal one a few years ago and just made videos with my girlfriend and stuff, but I haven't done anything for fantasy. Let me know if that's something people do. Do people use TikTok for Dynasty fantasy football? I promise you I'm going to do it for 2021, the redraft season. I just didn't know you could actually do it for Dynasty. Okay, so let's go see if we have any other questions. Okay, Dom says, hi, just joined the Patreon. How do I message? I think I already got you, my man. I think we already got you that invite sent out. Okay. And let's go through, see if we have anything else. Aaron asking us, should I trade Terry McLaurin for the 108? Honestly, probably not, just because at that 108 pick, now that Devontae Smith coming in saying he's weighing 170, that pick looks a lot less appealing than it did before. Okay, Alex coming in with the donation. Thank you so much, my man. Just saying, for the grind. I promise you guys, I'm going to continue to grind for y'all as much as possible, especially now that we are graduating. I'm going to have even more time because, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not just a college student. I am graduating with 2 degrees. I'm spending a ton of time in classes right now on top of everything we do. Okay, so Butthead saying there are TikToks. Man, can you shoot me a DM on Twitter, shoot me a DM on Discord, sending me a link to someone's TikTok that does Dynasty videos, just so I can get a grasp of what they look like, what I would do if I even do them, because I really have no idea about that. Okay, Bryce saying Fantasy Headquarters does TikToks. I literally have never heard about Fantasy Headquarters, so maybe we can look this up together if y'all want. I don't want to make this like a reaction video. I don't want people to get upset if I say I don't know. Oh, no, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know who Fantasy Headliners are. Let me look up TikTok. I'm going to be completely honest, guys. The majority of people on YouTube, I don't really think they know a ton of what they're talking about. So I don't watch I don't watch a lot of YouTube fantasy football. I mainly just do some Apple podcasts that from guys that I really think know what they're doing. Like a perfect example would be Scott Connor with Dynasty and Chill. There are guys that you can find on Apple Podcasts that maybe don't have the biggest following. They don't have the 100,000 subscribers like Fantasy Headliners, but they definitely know what they're talking about. Let's go, and I think that we should be good. Let me make sure that we don't have any more DMs about Patreon. Okay, so let me get y'all this link out in the general chat. We have 2 more spots that y'all can take for this new mock draft, and we will get this going. Not trying to ramble on here forever. Want to get this going. I promise y'all that. Okay. So let's go through, send that last link out. And here, this is going to be a super flex startup draft. Also has some rookies in it. So let's share this over here. Let's get this going. Okay, that last spot was claimed. And maybe I need to slide this screen over just slightly. Okay, perfect. Looks like we have everybody in here. We have some people from our current fantasy flock startup with GPick6 coming in here representing. Thank you, my dude, for coming out. No, now this last bot should be taken literally any second. I just sent that out in the general chat and we should be able to get this going. Okay, let's get this going. And the reason I took the 101 is because I don't need practice mock drafting. We're going to take the easy pick here, let everybody else go through and have to think about what they are doing. And we will just kind of commentate over the picks. Also, especially in these mock drafts, I like picking either at the 101, the 112, Not because I think you get a better team that way, more so I can commentate freely, because if we're drafting from the 106 or something, I don't want to be talking about the player that I think is best available on the board or the guy I want, just because it would really lead ourselves to end up getting sniped. But anyway, Kyler Murray going off the board here at the 102. Here with Kyler, y'all know he's my guy. I love him. I can't fault anybody for taking Kyler at the 102, especially if you have that 102 pick. You don't know what quarterbacks are going to be available in the second and third round. So if you have the Russell Wilsons, if you have the Joe Burrow, the Dak Prescott all taken in the early second to mid-second, then possibly you miss out on that entire first QB tier, especially now that Deshaun Watson is dropping off of that tier with all the allegations circling him. I think that probably drives up slightly the Kyler Murray, the Josh Allen, just because the supply and demand of the quarterback position. Okay, so let's go through. And Aaron's saying, where should I get Bateman in an 8-man, 1 quarterback, no superflex league? Okay, so in an 8-man league, what you want to be prioritizing, if you ever message me on Patreon about an 8-man league, you know, all I talk about is elite upside, elite upside, elite upside. You literally cannot care about depth in the slightest. Because of that, you really don't care too much about wide receivers. I mean, you better have running backs like Javonte Williams over Rashad Bateman in that kind of format. And you also better have a tight ends like Kyle Pitts. I know this sounds basic, but I just want to make sure that you understand this, because if you're playing in an 8-man league, I don't necessarily know how in-depth and how comfortable you are with Dynasty, because generally, if you're playing in an 8-man league, that's going to be a softer league. Nobody wants to sign up for an 8-man format, especially if it's 1 quarterback. So please understand that you need to be going with those premium positions over wide receiver, because wide receiver is going to be the least valuable position that you have in an 8-man league. But even then, Rashad Bateman, right now, I believe we have him around our wide receiver 5 in our rookie rankings that we just updated yesterday on Patreon. Wide receivers that are ahead of him include, of course, you have Jalen Waddle. You also have players like Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith. Those are the easy calls. And some wide receivers that we also have ahead of him that other people may not is, I would prefer having a Rondale Moore and an Elijah Moore to go along with it. But I understand that everybody's a little bit different in where they are valuing that tier 2 of wide receivers. Okay. But anyway, very standard start here. I really don't even want to commentate over the first round because nothing's been out of the ordinary. You have CMC, Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor. I will say Kamara fell to the second round in our recent Dynasty Startup Draft. And Kamara is just an intriguing player in that we are seeing the quarterback change away from Drew Brees. We've seen before that if Alvin Kamara doesn't have that quarterback that is looking to check down consistently, like a Drew Brees, like a Teddy Bridgewater, we don't know what exactly his target share is going to be coming out of the backfield. Also, running back on a second contract, so I do want to point that out. Now, Nick Chubb at the 109, that is a pick we can talk about because I absolutely hate it. I don't understand it in the slightest. Nick Chubb, yes, you can make the argument that he is the most talented pure running back in the entire NFL. That is completely valid, and that's what I always say when we're talking about Nick Chubb. The talent is there. But at the end of the day, he's playing in an offense that's not the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not going to be that top 5 offense in the entire NFL in overall output. So the trips to the red zone, we don't exactly know what to expect to go along with this. You're going to end up finding that Kareem Hunt is going to be getting significantly more usage than most other teams running back too. So Nick Chubb, you're drafting him, you're going, yes, he's an elite talent, but he's someone a lot older than most people want to believe to go along with this. He is playing alongside another very good running back, and he's not playing in an elite NFL offense. Okay, so Kyle's journey coming in says Kyle Pitts or Javonte Williams at the 103 in a non-Superflex league. Man, if you go over and look at Patreon with our Dynasty rankings, you're going to find that we actually have Kyle Pitts significantly ahead of Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is not someone that I'm extremely excited about. Bryce coming in says, holy cow, G-Pick took a QB. Yeah, man, I didn't expect that. I expected G-Pick to be walking away from this draft with probably Drew Lock in the 14th just because the value's there. Guys, if y'all don't know, our most recent Patreon Dynasty startup, G-Pick has refused to take quarterback. He's just gone best value available at running back, wide receiver throughout the entire draft. It's going to be interesting to see what trades he makes. Obviously, he is going to be in the market for a quarterback. It's just, what is he willing to pay? Who is willing to sell? And that's going to be something that I'm excited to watch as we progress through the offseason in the flock too. But good news for G-Pick is we are so far away from starting any kind of lineup that he doesn't have to worry about it for a long time. But anything else we can point out here? You have Najee Harris going off the board at the 203. Now, this is ahead of Trevor Lawrence. Actually, no, Trevor Lawrence just went, but this is ahead of some other solid quarterbacks in a Russell Wilson, a Dak Prescott, a Joe Burrow. I can't get behind taking Najee Harris there at the 203 when you have those other stud QBs on the clock. And if you go to the running backs, here I'm fine if you want to take Najee Harris over Zeke, over Aaron Jones, over Jacobs, over Eckler, over CEH, given the fact that Harris is going to be attached to that rookie contract, and at the very worst, he's going to get second round NFL draft capital, so he should have the opportunity. But yeah, Harris, I don't love the pick. I think I would have rather gone QB there, but I can say the same thing about Derrick Henry that goes off the board at the 204. Now, C-Money, timing out. What are you doing, my man? Taking Cam Akers, that's completely fine. Cam Akers also a running back that I would definitely want over Derrick Henry. I would definitely want him over Najee Harris. So glad to see that timeout. And also, I will say that doesn't look like it's a completely invalid thing. That's not based on ADP. Cam Akers was actually very far down the ADP according to Sleeper. That was more so based on his Q. So we're fine with Cam Akers. Don't need to make that change with those picks. Okay. So now McDuncan on the clock. Took Josh Allen in the first round. Going to be interesting to see if he decides to go with another quarterback here. I'm of the opinion that these QBs are probably the best value available on the board right now. And yes, he is of the same opinion. He takes Russell Wilson at the 206. Love that Wilson pick, especially now that it looks like Wilson is most likely going to be staying in Seattle, and you see the Tyler Lockett extension. So when you take Russell Wilson in the second, you actually have some appealing stacks that you can make later on, drafting a DK Metcalf, drafting a Tyler Lockett, getting some of those pass catchers coming in. Okay, Jake coming in says, how are you going to let people go Chubb and Henry and F up the ADP? Man, like I said, I did not like the Chubb pick in the first round. I understand the Henry pick in the second based on the common dynasty players viewpoint. Personally, I would not touch Derrick Henry ahead of Cam Akers, Russell Wilson, Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't touch him ahead of A.J. Brown, those other wide receivers. Honestly, I wouldn't touch him ahead of other running backs like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire or a Travis Etienne to go along with this, just because Derrick Henry is that 27-year-old running back. Derrick Henry is that running back that has taken a beating throughout his entire NFL career. And I know he's an elite talent. I understand that. I know that he's an outlier. But at the same time, he has no guaranteed money past this season. So Derrick Henry can't get behind the pick at the 204. Okay, Alex coming in says, I'm surprised Dak hasn't been taken yet. Yeah, man, I can't get behind Justin Fields over Dak Prescott or Aaron Rodgers at the same time. I think that, I'm sorry, not Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott or Joe Burrow. Yeah, I completely understand Fields over Rodgers. But yeah, I can't either. We have 3 picks until ours. There are 2 players that are by far and away the best value on the board, but because we've been talking about them in the live stream, I doubt they make it back to us. Okay, Alex P is saying Henry over Dak. Yeah, no, you can't take, in my opinion, you can't take Derrick Henry until the mid to late 3rd round, honestly. Just because, yes, he's an elite asset in 2021, but are you really that confident in his long-term projectability to have that starting job, to be that 3-down running back? I'm not. And also, they lost the offensive coordinator. Also, they lost Corey Davis. You have to question the overall efficiency of the offense. So I really don't like that. Now, I hate what we have seen in the past 3 picks. Dak Prescott, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Joe Burrow. Okay, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, best values on the board. Also, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The reason I hate seeing that is because we could have had a very easy pick at the 2-3 turn. We could have gone CEH and Travis Kelce to get that stack going. But now that we are kind of put in a tough spot, obviously we can't go Watson here in a pure super flex. I can make the argument if it was a 2 quarterback, but if it's just a super flex league where QB isn't going to be at the same type of premium, we don't want to go there. But what we can do is we can take another running back on a rookie contract in J.K. Dobbins at the 212. Now, if we go through, look for our second guy. The running back position, you have some intriguing options. A guy like Antonio Gibson kind of stands out. And the reason I feel freely to talk about this is just because we know that a player like that's never going to make it back to us. The question is, would you rather have an Antonio Gibson? Would you rather have a solidified wide receiver 1 in a guy like A.J. Brown? And because the running backs that we are going to be looking at in the 4-5 turn are going to be absolutely disgusting, I think what we end up having to do here is I think we actually just end up having to go with either a Travis Etienne or an Antonio Gibson. And I could easily see us going with Travis Etienne if he ends up getting the NFL draft capital and he finds himself in a nice landing spot. But with that current uncertainty, I think what we end up doing is we just take Antonio Gibson. That way we have those running backs that are on their rookie contracts. We have the guys that we can project in the long term. So yeah, we're going to go J.K. Dobbins and Antonio Gibson there with back-to-back picks. Okay, so now Quantum Football coming in asking us, he says, so I have a general fantasy question here. Why do you like stacks so much? Feel like, especially if it's a wide receiver running back stack, they could take away points from each other rather than help each other. Man, if you really dive into what studies show, because people that are way smarter than me have actually done the research on this and have actually looked at the math, getting stacks, especially in Dynasty, when you're building around young players, is extremely advantageous because, say I take Mahomes at the 101 pick. What am I saying when I take Mahomes at the 101? I'm saying, you know what? I'm investing a significant amount of capital into this selection. So all my eggs are in the Patrick Mahomes basket. If he comes out here and he puts up 2018 Mahomes numbers, wins the league MVP, throws for 50 touchdowns, then I'm most likely in a decent spot to be in a contending situation in this league. Now, how do I continue to maximize my overall upside on this roster? So, A, we want to see Mahomes go out there and score 50 touchdowns. We've already established that by taking him in the first round. So now, if we go along and we go, okay, you know what? If Mahomes throws for 50 touchdowns, we understand that the Chiefs are going to have one of the most productive offenses in the entire NFL. They're going to be taking end zone trip after end zone trip after end zone trip. So you want a piece of that production. You want to make those correlating bets. You want to make those stacks. So say we go with a Mahomes, then like we've done in previous drafts, say a Tyreek Hill and a Travis Kelce also fall to us at the 2-3 turn. So then we go Mahomes, Kelce, and Hill. What happens if Mahomes breaks his arm, say in week 1, and you don't have Mahomes again until 2022? Well, that sucks. You are definitely losing the league because Kelce's going to bust, Tyreek Hill's going to bust, and obviously Patrick Mahomes is going to bust. But then you end up with the rookie pick 101, and at the end of the day, even if, say, we decided to go with Dobbins and Gibson at the 2-3 turn instead of having a Tyreek Hill and a Travis Kelce, we are still losing the league because we already put so many of our eggs in that Patrick Mahomes basket where maybe we don't get last in the league, but what we are going to do instead is we are probably going to get 6th, 7th. And do you want to be in that spot? No, I want to either be first or I want to be last in Dynasty because I either want to be winning the money or I want to be winning that rookie pick 101 for the following season. So that's how you get a polarized roster. That's how you just go through, make those correlating bets so you have access to a higher overall upside. If one of your bets ends up hitting, your others are more likely to hit. But if one of them ends up missing, your others are more likely to miss. So that's how you build a team that you go, you know what? There's pretty much no way I earn the 106. I don't want the 106 anyway. That's the worst place to be in Dynasty because you didn't make the fantasy playoffs. To go along with that, you're not getting that great of a rookie pick. So by making those stacks, by making those significant investments and understanding how they correlate together, yes, you're lowering your floor, but you should never be playing for a high floor in Dynasty. That's the worst thing to do. You want to be making sure you have a ceiling that no other team in the league can match, and you don't care about the floor because if things don't go your way, you want to be last in the league regardless. So I hope that makes sense on why I really like having stacks. Another great reason is just because if you make that stack, you can sit there and watch one game and know exactly what you're rooting for. So it just makes it a little bit more fun at the same time. But anyway, let me point something out right now that I find absolutely ridiculous. And no, it's not the Deshaun Watson pick at the 303. I'm fine with the Watson pick at the 303 just because, yes, it's extremely risky. Yes, there's a decent chance you don't have Watson this upcoming year. But like I said earlier, you don't want to draft the team that earns the 106. You want to draft the team that wins the league or gets last place. So Watson fits that mold. Now, what I want to point out is A.J. Brown not necessarily falling to the 311 because you can see that happening in any draft. But I want to point out the fact that he goes as wide receiver 4. He goes behind Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, and Davante Adams. So I'm sorry, actually as wide receiver 5. I will say in our most recent Patreon Dynasty startup, we took A.J. Brown as the wide receiver 1 overall. And I didn't have to think that much about it because no Corey Davis, no Jonnu Smith. Now, A.J. Brown, a wide receiver who has traditionally over the past 2 years won with efficiency that no other wide receiver has matched throughout the entire NFL, is now going to be seeing volume as well. Now this is a wide receiver that can see a 28% team target share going into year 3. So A.J. Brown has to be, I don't even know what to say. He has to be the wide receiver 1. I mean, there's not much to go with that. Now, I will say Divine Torture taking Justin Jefferson at the 402 as well. That's probably the furthest I've seen Justin Jefferson fall in terms of wide receiver rankings. So I love that 3-4 turn with what he did there. I will say that Divine Torture team would look absurd if he decided to go Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift in the first and second, then A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson in the third and fourth. He would have by far and away the best team in the league right now. I don't like the Davante Adams pick in the first just because we know that wide receiver value that you can get later on is going to be fantastic. But yeah, can't fault anyone for deciding to take A.J. Brown and Justin Jefferson on that 3-4 turn. Okay. Also, I want to give a massive shout out. It looks like over half of y'all in the live stream have dropped a like on the stream. So obviously that helps us out a ton, and I truly, truly appreciate it. And because y'all continue to show that type of support, I promise you I'm going to continue to live stream at least one of these mock drafts, trying to get as many people in here that I can every single week. Maybe this weekend also I can go through and do some rookie mock drafts if that's something that y'all would like to see. Okay, so Bryson saying, where do you value Watson? Okay, I honestly value Watson a lot higher than most people. And this is because, like we just went through with this extremely long explanation of what we are looking at, is in Dynasty, we are looking at upside. I'm not looking and trying to play scared. I'm not going to be trying to avoid players that have a low floor just because we want to make sure that we have access to make it to that 106 pick. No. If you take a Deshaun Watson in the third, yeah, if Deshaun Watson ends up missing 2021, that sucks. I am very, very sorry for you. But then you go full-on rebuild, you go full-on tank mode, you go the productive struggle route. So maybe we don't like seeing Deshaun Watson on a team with Christian McCaffrey in the first, because once you take CMC, I'm of the opinion that you probably need to be a team that's going to be competitive right away. So Deshaun Watson doesn't necessarily fit that mold, but say a team that decided to go, just say in your first round, you decided to go Jonathan Taylor. In your second round, you went Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Then at the back half of the third, if you want to take Deshaun Watson, I'm fine with that because he does have that access to that elite level upside. Okay, so now let's go through and see if we have any other questions. Okay, Alex saying, Stephon Diggs drafted after Michael Thomas. His QB situation is stable and Diggs is younger. Yeah, that is something else that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't like the Michael Thomas selection. You've seen him going further than this in almost every other Dynasty mock draft that we've done. So he's definitely going to rise up the ADP slightly. But I know that some people, like a guy Baskin, who's very, very smart in our Patreon chat, he loves Michael Thomas. He's almost all in just because Michael Thomas was that outlier wide receiver in 2019, very similar to Davante Adams, and he was dealing with that high ankle sprain. So maybe it's just the case that you can make excuses. It's not like Michael Thomas came out and he performed poorly and nobody knew why. He was dealing with one of the worst injuries that you can get in football, outside of an injury that's going to take you out for the entire season. Just because with that high ankle sprain, you really never know when you're good to go. We always get those reports coming out with those players that suffer the high ankle sprain saying, hey, I wasn't good all year. I mean, I did never felt like myself. So hopefully Michael Thomas is a little bit closer to what he was before whenever we have him coming back in 2021. But of course, you can't guarantee that. Now, another thing I want to point out here, Darren Waller going ahead of Travis Kelce. Now, this is something that's interesting. Let me know what y'all think of this. Because pull up Darren Waller, he's 28 years old, and you pull up Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is 31. So another thing that I'll point out is Darren Waller has already had an elite target share season after season, and now the Raiders are missing out on a few of their key wide receivers that were getting targets this past year. So maybe Darren Waller over Travis Kelce at this point is becoming a more popular take, because this is also something that we saw in our most recent Dynasty startup on Patreon. So let me know what y'all think. Let me know if y'all think this is bad. Let me know if y'all think that this is going to be something that more and more people are split on as the season progresses, because this is the second time that I've seen this now. Okay, so now Chris Godwin off the board here at the back half of the fourth round. Now, Allen Robinson. So we are in a spot where we are probably going to be looking at wide receiver. Now, the wide receiver that we are going to be drafting, I know a lot of people are probably going to be a little bit split on, except our first guy. Our first guy stands out like a sore thumb. I don't know how he's going after Chris Godwin, how he's going after Allen Robinson, just because he is a bona fide stud. And I really like taking him when we have those other younger players on the roster because it gives us more flexibility going forward. We are going to be taking CeeDee Lamb at the 4-12. Now, if we go through, a player that stands out, and I know this is going to be the consensus pick, and a lot of people probably want me to go with him, is going to be Ja'Marr Chase. So, yes, Ja'Marr Chase is available right now, guys. But no, we are not going to be going with Ja'Marr Chase. What we are going to be doing instead is we are going to be going down the board slightly according to ADP, but I think that based on what we've seen from him in his first 3 years in the NFL, and based on the fact that he is still extremely young, DJ Moore is actually going to be the player that we want in Dynasty. So, to be honest, I can't imagine having a better start than this, going Mahomes, Dobbins, Gibson, Lamb, Moore, extremely balanced. And I will say, if y'all were following our most recent Patreon Dynasty startup, yes, the QBs in that league went a lot higher, but that was a 2-quarterback league. And I understand that a lot of people in their mind that really haven't played in a 2-quarterback versus Superflex league, they don't understand the difference in value. But no, there actually is. Even in theory, with you wanting to start 2 quarterbacks every single week in a Superflex league, you see time and time again that through bye weeks, through injuries, teams get away with starting a wide receiver in that Superflex spot, where simply you just can't do that in a 2-quarterback league. So only being Superflex is going to push some of these wide receivers up, like a CeeDee Lamb, like a DJ Moore, a little bit higher than I would have them in a 2-quarterback league. Okay. Mike is saying Mason got CD at the same spot in the last mock. Guys, let me know if y'all think that this is an aggressive ranking on CeeDee Lamb, that I would take him ahead of some quarterbacks in Superflex, like a Ryan Tannehill, like a Carson Wentz, a Matthew Stafford, a Baker Mayfield, or that I would take him ahead of some wide receivers like Ja'Marr Chase, Devontae Smith, Tyler Lockett, Julio Jones, Kenny Golladay, Amari Cooper. You also have guys down there like Cortland Sutton, Rondale Moore, Terry McLaurin. I personally think CeeDee Lamb there at the 412 is as about standard as you can get. I mean, that is such good value in my opinion that if we were in a dynasty startup and we were able to get CeeDee Lamb just right after Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, even Stephon Diggs, Michael Thomas, I would probably rather have CeeDee Lamb over Michael Thomas at this point, as crazy as that sounds, just because CeeDee Lamb was an elite prospect coming in. Not only did he have that elite rookie season, but you just had every box checked. I mean, if CeeDee Lamb was in this wide receiver class, he would easily be wide receiver 1 in the NFL draft. Okay. Parker saying Jacobs in the 4th round. Do you like that pick? No, I hate the Jacobs pick. I mean, even if you really want to go running back there, I just think that taking Jacobs is such a bad pick when you have those quarterbacks available. Like we were talking about, when you have a Ryan Tannehill, when you have a Matthew Stafford, more importantly, when you have these wide receivers, like a DJ Moore, like a Ja'Marr Chase, like a Terry McLaurin. That's reckless to take Josh Jacobs in the 4th, in my opinion. Now, if Kenyon Drake did not sign, I would be completely fine with the pick. I could even make the argument that Josh Jacobs would be up here in the range of the A.J. Brown, the Calvin Ridley, but you can't ignore the fact that Kenyon Drake's coming in. And while, yes, Josh Jacobs should still be the running back 1 on that roster, what does it say that the Raiders, instead of paying their offensive linemen, instead of going out there and making the investment into the offensive line, they made an investment into Kenyon Drake, who has about 4 solid games on his NFL resume? Now, that makes us very bearish on what they are assuming Josh Jacobs is going to have for his role. We've never seen the Raiders be willing to target Josh Jacobs aggressively out of the backfield, despite whatever reports were happening in training camp last season. So yeah, Josh Jacobs can't get behind the pick there in the 4th round. Honestly, in my opinion, I know I sound like a douche when I say this, but I don't care. I think probably the worst pick in the 4th round. Now, let me know if y'all want me to go through and tell y'all my favorite pick in each round, my least favorite pick in each round to go along with this. Let me know if that's something that y'all would like to see. Of course, if y'all don't want to see that, we can just continue to ramble on and go with the draft. But here, Jalen Hurts, Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford at the end of the 5th. Love this kind of value. I think that once you have the T. Higgins, the Terry McLaurin, the DJ Moore go off the board, those players are definitely best available. I would have all those quarterbacks ahead of Javonte Williams. I'd even have them ahead of a wide receiver that I love in Devontae Smith and David Montgomery. I mean, those were great picks. Now, Carson coming in here in the 5th, that is something I don't know if we can get behind, because with Carson, yes, we were straight up wrong like we are every single year. Every year I come out and I say, Chris Carson, going to be a sell for me in Dynasty. Don't know what his long-term value is with the Seattle Seahawks. Every year, you end up seeing them wanting to use Chris Carson ahead of the other running backs in the backfield and give him close to 25 touches a game. But now that contract just doesn't excite me for the long term. Looks like Carson's going to be a running back that's going to be a 1 to 2 year guy in Seattle, which, yes, is exciting, but at the end of the day, would you rather have a 1 to 2 year running back, or would you rather have a different player? Like, just say you go to the quarterback position and you have some intriguing guys like a Tua Tagovailoa, Zach Wilson. I mean, you have a Trey Lance still available. So I think that Chris Carson there at the 5'11" cannot get behind it at all, to be honest. I just think the running backs in this range are being overdrafted. Okay, so Alex coming in says, Ryan Tannehill is a top 12 quarterback in my opinion. I am a believer. So, man, here, let me give you my thoughts on Tannehill. So I would be completely fine saying Ryan Tannehill is the top 12 quarterback, and I actually was faced with a difficult decision in this last Dynasty Patreon startup that we did, where I took A.J. Brown in the 3rd round, right? And then coming back in the 4th round, we were looking at the quarterback tier of Rodgers, Tannehill, and Matthew Stafford. So initially, like we talked about in the video earlier, my first thought was to go with the stack. My first thought was, hey, we took A.J. Brown, let's get Ryan Tannehill in here, let's build some correlation with this roster. Yet, the more we thought about it, the more I went, okay, so Ryan Tannehill, yes, he was a player that has been great. His efficiency has been off the charts the past 2 years. But I am just legitimately worried looking at this overall situation and going, you know what? Jonnu Smith, going to be a tight end leaving that makes an impact. Also, Corey Davis, love Corey Davis. He was very efficient with his targets last season. He was a former top 5 NFL draft pick. You saw the contract that the Jets gave him. That indicates that he was a difference-making player for that Tennessee Titans offense. So now that Tannehill's losing his offensive coordinator, his tight end 1, his wide receiver 2, I think we have to sit here and we have to go, he's probably going to get bumped down a few spots because he also doesn't have access to that elite rushing upside. So yes, I would have agreed with you that Ryan Tannehill would have been a top 12 quarterback before NFL free agency, but I think that you have to call him a loser from that. So Tannehill can't get behind that. But here at the 509, he's a great pick regardless. I just don't know if we can call him a top 12 dynasty quarterback. I mean, going through, what quarterback are you going to have him ahead of? You can't have him ahead of Mahomes, Kyler, Allen, Herbert, Lamar, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. I mean, maybe you can make the argument for Justin Fields, but say these first 6 quarterbacks solidified ahead of him. You can't with Joe Burrow, 7, Dak Prescott, 8, Rodgers. I guess maybe you can make the argument that he's a top 12 quarterback. He's right on that borderline right here. Personally, I would also probably rather have those rookie quarterbacks like a Trey Lance, a Zach Wilson, just because we understand that those rookies, if they get that top 5 NFL draft capital, in the case of Zach Wilson, who should be drafted number 2 overall, that pretty much guarantees that he is going to have a starting quarterback job over the next 4 seasons. And to go along with that, a quarterback like Trey Lance has that elite rushing upside. So Ryan Tannehill, he's a polarizing player, I will say that, just because that Tennessee Titans offense has been just the definition of, just say, I don't want to say record breaking, but model breaking. You can't really fathom what's going on in Tennessee when they are so different from the entire NFL. So let me know what y'all think of Ryan Tannehill. Let me know if y'all think I'm just completely galaxy branding this and overthinking it, but I can't get behind him being a solidified top 12 dynasty QB. Okay, Mark saying Titans are going to get Elijah Moore in the 2nd round. Man, if the Titans got Elijah Moore in the 2nd round, that would be a perfect fit because you have A.J. Brown to play that alpha X wide receiver role. Elijah Moore can play that field stretcher. We know he has that elite speed. He can also play a little bit in the slot just because he doesn't profile to be that traditional X guy, but they don't need someone like that with A.J. Brown. Now, I will say probably the best value in this entire mock draft was Zach Wilson at the 6'10". Love that pick. We probably should have gone with a QB like a Jalen Hurts, a Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford, or Trey Lance, or Zach Wilson with this 5th round pick instead of DJ Moore. This is a lesson learned because you go to the wide receiver board here, and there are still a ton of appealing guys. I believe a player like Brandon Ayuk is still available. I think that's going to be our upcoming pick. If he is, let me search him. Yes, Brandon Ayuk is still available. Let's make sure we hit that draft button on him. And I will point out that players like Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool are also available at the wide receiver position. Personally, I'm not going to be going with that route, though, just because I can't get as high on those Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers as most people. With my love for Juju Smith-Schuster, combined with the fact that you have to have questions about Ben Roethlisberger's arm. So, yeah, can't go with those Pittsburgh wide receivers. Now we go over to the running back position. I mean, this position is just currently so gross. I mean, if you go through the best players available according to ADP are Kenyon Drake, Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt. I know Kareem Hunt, a lot of people want to say is a value here, but there's no way, no planet that I could be valuing a Kareem Hunt in the same tier of a Mike Evans just based on their long-term projections. So yeah, here I think what we actually do is we go with our fourth wide receiver in a row. We're going to be going Lamb, Moore, Ayuk, and Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a wide receiver that, yes, is a little bit older, and I understand that he came in that 2014 NFL draft, so a lot of people are viewing him as someone that is getting near the end of his prime, but that's just simply not the case because he came in with that 2014 NFL draft, and the reason it feels like he has been around forever is because he came in and started producing right away in his rookie season. His name was on the radar. He was a top 15 NFL draft pick. Now you pull up his player card, and he's actually surprisingly young, only 27 years old. So Mike Evans, just like Amari Cooper, are going to be two wide receivers that I really like investing into because you have the long track record. Their profiles coming into the NFL, along with what they've done so far, indicate that they are players you don't have to worry about falling off very quickly. I think Mike Evans is a safe investment to make with the 701. Okay, so McFrinkin Duncan coming out says, should I stock up on quarterbacks during a draft if they are dropping below ADP? Okay, so this is also something that we can dive into in a specific Superflex video. I think that this is a great point. Guys, okay, so if you're going to be hoarding quarterbacks in Superflex, it is very dependent on a few things. Obviously, price is going to depend on everything, besides even league format. That's going to be the number one thing. But what you need to understand is you need to understand that there are drastic differences in Superflex leagues depending on what league format you're playing in. So if you're playing in a Superflex league that, say, you only have to start about 8 players, say you start 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a Superflex. Their QBs literally are going to make up 40 to 50% of your starting lineup production, where you have to have those elite guys if you want to be competitive, because everything is going to be dependent on having that Kyler Murray breakout, on having that Josh Allen breakout, having Jalen Hurts at the end of the season. That is where you're going to get a ton of value from those quarterbacks, is those leagues where you're not flooded in with flex spots. Because if you have to start 13 or 14 players and it's a 12-team league and you can only start up to 2 quarterbacks, just by simply doing the math, you understand that the overall output of your starting lineup on a week-to-week basis, it's going to be a smaller percentage coming from those 2 quarterback positions. So understand how important quarterback scoring is given your starting lineup requirements, combined with understanding how many teams are in your league. If you're playing in an 8-man league, I literally got done talking on someone, talking on Patreon with someone this morning where he plays in an 8-man Superflex league, and I was telling him, I was like, hey man, this is closer to a 1 quarterback league and how you should be valuing these quarterbacks compared to a Superflex, just because you're looking at this being a case where every team is going to have access to having 3 to 4 quarterbacks, and that is just simply not the case in a 12-team, 14, 16-team Superflex league. So if you're playing in a 14, 16-team Superflex league, man, if you think that QBs are going to be a value where they fall, take every single one. I wouldn't mind if you're in a 16-man Superflex league to take a QB with your first 5 picks. And I know that sounds crazy, but once you get into the season, the supply and demand is going to be absolutely ridiculous. Now, if you're playing in a 2 quarterback format, you can't go that overboard in a 12-team league, just because the simple math shows that, hey, most teams can have 2 to 3 starting quarterbacks unless you have a few hoarding about 4. So please just understand your league format is going to dictate everything in terms of how many quarterbacks you should be drafting in Superflex. Now, I know a lot of people just want to say hoarding quarterbacks is a great idea, hoarding quarterbacks is a bad idea, but no, it's entirely up to your team situation and your league format. Okay, also guys, we are closing in on 50 likes for the live stream, so thank you so much for everybody who's decided to go down there and drop that like. Now, we are so far away and we have yet to get our second QB. So at this point in the draft, you kind of have to ask yourself in these these Superflex formats, are we going to be better off just reaching on a starting quarterback like a Tom Brady here? Just say another example of this would be a Matt Ryan in the 8th round, or would we be better off just waiting until we get to about the 12th, 13th, 14th and taking guys like Cam Newton, Drew Lock, Jimmy Garoppolo, guys that you don't exactly know if they're going to be a starter, but maybe you take 3 or 4 of them and bet that essentially one of them guarantees to have that starting job. So it's definitely going to be, it's going to be interesting. Adam Thielen at the 7-12. Let me real quick pull up on my phone our recent Patreon Dynasty startup to see where we got Adam Thielen, because Adam Thielen, a player that I hated coming into the offseason. I was screaming to sell him at the end of the year just because we knew that his value was going to plummet. But I didn't exactly know it was going to plummet this much, because we ended up taking Adam Thielen in our most recent Dynasty startup. Now, we ended up taking him at the 10.09, so about 3 rounds after this. So I will say at the 10.09, that price point is a lot more appealing than you're going to find here at the 7.12. But of course, the 7.12 is going to be a more standard pick if you're just looking at ADP. Okay, so AZ Nero, I don't know how to pronounce your name, man. I'm sorry, but you're asking, how will the new Dynasty startups on Patreon be formatted? Honestly, I think just because I want to make sure that everybody's having to think on the fly, just because I want to make sure that everyone's having to approach it with a different strategy, I want to continue to change the formats. So this one that we previously did was a 2 quarterback and a 2 tight end. Flock leagues previous to this have mainly been best ball and tight end premium and super flex. So maybe this next one we throw in points per carry, maybe we throw in tiered PPR, just mix it up slightly. That way people have to go do their research. They have to sit there, think for the draft, and we have to do the same thing, because if we are just doing nonstop 12-team Superflex startups, not going to lie, probably going to get pretty boring after a while for myself. If I'm playing in 30 Dynasty leagues and they're all exactly the same, I want to make sure that we are going to be mixing it up as we go. Okay, so Mac Jones coming off at the 8.05, definitely something I have to talk about. And here, I just have to come out and say, yes, I was way too low on Mac Jones at the beginning of the offseason. I was sitting here going, hey, Mac Jones looks like he is going to be a second-round drafted NFL quarterback. You see the historical hit rates on those second-round drafted NFL quarterbacks, and they are extremely low. Now, of course, we're not tapped in on the pulse of what NFL GMs are thinking. Where we're getting the majority of this information comes from mock draft database websites, where they go through and they create an ADP of sorts for these QBs in every single year. A perfect example of this is a guy like Daniel Jones back in 2019. You have these players just all of a sudden rise up, and it's for a good reason. It's because someone knows something. And Mac Jones at this point looks like he's almost guaranteed to be a top 10 drafted NFL quarterback, and it looks like what I previously thought wasn't possible actually has a good chance of happening, and that's Mac Jones going off to San Francisco with that 3rd overall pick. And it doesn't matter what I think of the prospect in Mac Jones. You look at that situation and go, you know what? If he's drafted 3rd overall, if he goes to San Francisco, he's going to have a guaranteed starting job to go along with this. Mac Jones should also have a great situation with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. So yeah, Mac Jones at the 8.05, love that value, even though I would have been wrong in saying that it was an overdrafted player earlier this offseason. But our process remains fluid. That's why over on Patreon, I am updating those rookie rankings every single week. And you can find that if you just go through and look that initially we had Mac Jones, I believe, ranked at around our 17th highest rookie in Superflex leagues in the mid-second round. He's then risen up to the early second round. Now he's risen up to the late first. I believe he's our 109 pick currently. And if more buzz circulates around him going to San Francisco, that's going to continue to rise. Okay, so this is absolutely crazy. We see Dallas Goedert go off before the player that we are going to end up taking here. Now, I wanted a QB, but I don't think we're going to be able to take one now that we have Mac Jones, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins all off the board. So here, first, let's take Noah Fant in the 8th round as the tight end. Let's count it off. Tight end 8 off the board. Absolutely crazy value, in my opinion. Now, this next pick is going to be a little bit harder. I'm definitely not going to be looking at running back, despite us only having 2. We're going to either be looking at wide receiver for the best player available, just with the value, or we can make a pivot over to the quarterback position, just depending on who's going to be there. So QB, if we slide through real quick, really there's nobody that stands out. I mean, you have a Jameis Winston, you have a Ben Roethlisberger. Those are a few players that currently project to have starting jobs, but like I said, this is only a Superflex league, so the demand is not going to be nearly as high as a 2 quarterback format. So instead, I think what we do here is we get our man Juju Smith-Schuster here as our wide receiver 5. Now I understand everybody hates on our Juju picks, but you have to do it. You have to do it. And real quick, let me get our oh crap, I wish I would have saved this video. I wish I would have saved the video Baskin sent in our Patreon startup chat, where it's just some hilarious, it's a hilarious clip. If you're in the chat, you understand what I'm talking about, but that's me right now. That is me. Parker is saying, what do you think of Melvin Gordon this year if the Broncos get one of Fields, Lance, or Jones? Okay, I will say Denver looks like they're shaping up to be a fantastic team if they're able to get one of those quarterbacks, but it looks like they need to make a trade up if they want to grab one of those QBs because there are only 5 of them, and I don't know if Denver's going to be looking to do that just because we really don't have that many reports saying so. I will say, regardless, Melvin Gordon, definitely a bad pick here in the 6th round, a 28-year-old running back on his second contract where you've seen the efficiency drop off season after season. That's not an investment that I am willing to make, but if Fields, Lance, or Mac Jones comes in and we see that significant QB upgrade over Drew Lock, definitely has to get bumped up at least your 2021 rankings. So yeah, Melvin Gordon, think he was severely overdrafted here, but at the end of the day, I mean, if he does get that quarterback upgrade, I understand the excitement because that offense has a ton of exciting pieces. We talk about this all the time. I mean, you have Sutton, you have Judy, you have Noah Fant, you have Hamler, you have Albert O, you have a decent offensive line. So yeah, Melvin Gordon has the pieces around him to play in an efficient offense that's highly productive. Just needs the QB piece. But regardless, in the 6th round, that's definitely going to be a reach. Okay, G Pick coming out says, oof, I'm choking every pick, bro. Yeah, man, I don't like your start here. I'm going to be completely honest. I think that your team so far through this mock draft is significantly worse than what you're doing in our current startup right now. So let me slide over my little screen so y'all can see this draft board. Okay, we are looking at G Pick. With Lamar Lawrence, I'm completely fine with those 2 selections. Possibly I would have gone with Russell Wilson, but that's just because he's my guy. But I agree going with QB there. Maybe you could have gone QB and then a rookie running back like Swift or Akers, but it's understandable. Ridley at the 312, I would have preferred to see Justin Jefferson, but I understand the pick. Here, James Robinson at the 401. Not my guy. I understand it, though. Where we really can't get behind these picks is going to be these last 3, the Melvin Gordon, the Adam Thielen, the Odell Beckham Jr. Those are the 3 picks that I'm really not a fan of. Okay. But anyway, let's move this up here for now. That way y'all can see these recent picks coming off the board. Okay, so Debo going off to the 907 behind Marquise Brown, Robert Woods, Julio Jones, Tyler Boyd, Laviska, and Juju Smith-Schuster. All these players are kind of in the same tier as me. I would definitely prefer having Juju. Honestly, I think I would have Juju all the way up here next to the Tyler Lockett, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson tier. I think that Juju is closer to a mid-7th round pick than an early 9th. But like I said, guys, y'all know I am very biased with Juju Smith-Schuster, a wide receiver that I completely got wrong last offseason. I overdrafted him by a significant margin. I traded for him and paid a significant price in a ton of leagues, and that was a mistake. But here at the 9th round, I mean, Juju's 24 years old. Let me, oh, shoot, I don't want to change this player. But what we want to do is we want to view his player card. Yeah, 24 years old. We've seen the historic age-adjusted production. So I think in the 9th round, Juju just stands out a tier ahead of all these other wide receivers. I guess you could say Julio Jones. You would like him over Juju Smith-Schuster based on your team construction. And he was drafted to a team that is a little bit interesting that they have that mix of win-now players combined with the long-term youth. But let me know what y'all think. Let me know if I'm just way too high on Juju right now. If we should have him a little bit behind these players or if he belongs in this tier or maybe a little bit higher like I'm suggesting. Okay, JN is saying that we are on the clock in the recent Dynasty Patreon startup. So what I will do is I'll go over and I'll make that pick live after we end this mock draft. But I want to make sure we get through this mock draft. I understand, guys, if you're in that Patreon startup, just give me a second. I promise you I'm going to get over to that pick. But I want to talk through my thought process because we are getting to the later rounds. It is starting to get a little bit harder to make those picks in that Patreon league. Okay, so let's go through and Adam is saying, what do you think of the team at the 104? I feel like I'm stinking up this draft. 104, Barkley, I love the pick. Burrow, love the pick. Etienne, love the pick. Jacobs, hate it. I think that you would have been way better off going with the wide receiver. I mean, instead of having Jacobs here, if you would have just rolled with Saquon Barkley and Travis Etienne as your top 2 running backs, then backfilled with depth way later on, and then taking a CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, or even an Allen Robinson as your wide receiver 1 to pair with Terry McLaurin, I would have definitely preferred that. McLaurin at the 504, on the other hand, I really like. Waddle at the 609. Man, I can't get behind taking Jalen Waddle over Brandon Ayuk, over a Mike Evans, or Jerry Jeudy when we've already seen that elite production. Kenny Golladay, I'm fine with. Matt Ryan, I'm fine with. Julio Jones, I'm fine with. So yeah, man, I like the majority of your picks. The two that stand out to me that I think you went a little overboard with are going to be Jalen Waddle and Josh Jacobs. I would have actually also preferred to see Zach Wilson over Jalen Waddle. I think at the 609, Zach Wilson was the best player available. And what you could have done instead is, let me ask you this very simply, because this is the best way to view it. Okay, so you decided to take Jalen Waddle in the 6th over Zach Wilson, and because of that, you decided to take Matt Ryan in the 8th over Juju Smith-Schuster and Laviska Shenault. So the question is, would you rather have Jalen Waddle and Matt Ryan, or would you rather have Zach Wilson and Juju Smith-Schuster? So obviously, you don't have to use those exact players in the example, but I think that's a decent way that you can look at it. Okay, so Elijah Moore, our rookie, going off the board at the 1003. Love to see that, guys. Like I said, I may be higher on Elijah Moore than pretty much anybody else in Dynasty, just because he checks so many boxes that a lot of people don't want to talk about. A lot of people want to talk about Rashad Bateman checking boxes. Rashad Bateman going off the board here at the 807. I think getting Elijah Moore in the early 10th is such a better pick when you have that elite level production in the SEC with Elijah Moore also at a young age. I mean, guys, Elijah Moore at 20 years old averaged 150 receiving yards at Ole Miss. And yes, he didn't break out his true freshman year, but he was playing alongside A.J. Brown. He was playing alongside DK Metcalf, and I know DK Metcalf missed a significant amount of time, but still, DK played some games there. Also, had Dawson Knox competing for targets, a tight end currently for the Buffalo Bills, seeing a decent amount of playing time. So Elijah Moore, you can rationalize away the fact that he didn't have that early career breakout, but when he did get the opportunity, he was elite in terms of his market share numbers and just his overall production profile. And then he comes out with a great 40 time. I mean, Elijah Moore, I am so excited about. Does Sleeper have the player cards for these rookies yet? Not really. They don't have anything for him. Hopefully we get some player cards for them soon. Maybe that doesn't come until the NFL draft. Okay. Bryce saying he also thinks Jalen Waddle went a little early. Yeah, I like Waddle, the prospect, just because it's similar to what we were saying with Devontae Smith. I mean, you're looking at Jalen Waddle, and he was very productive on a team that had some other great playmakers. He was very productive on a team that had a player like Jerry Jeudy, that had Henry Ruggs, that also had Devontae Smith. But I think that just taking him over wide receivers that are still young, that we've seen have success in the NFL before, I just don't agree with that. Because it doesn't really matter if Jalen Waddle is a better prospect than Brandon Ayuk was coming out of Arizona State, just because you've seen the production in the NFL for Brandon Ayuk. He also has that first round NFL draft capital attached to him, so I don't understand the thought process there, going Waddle over Ayuk. Oh, so let me go through and let me see if we have any other questions in the general chat. Leonardo asking us, Juju, Sutton, or Claypool for Dynasty? Now, man, those players are definitely in similar tiers. I will say that I'm going to give you an answer that is completely biased, and I really want you to ask the other people in the Discord chat, ask the other people in the live chat this, just because anytime that you ask me a player with Juju Smith-Schuster and the other guys next to it are close, I'm always going to be going with Juju, my man. And it's something that I wish I could get away from, but it's just very hard for me to. Okay, so now we are on the board, and I see one player that really stands out to us at the wide receiver position. I don't want to take him, though, just because we are already so loaded up on wide receivers. He would be our wide receiver 6. But to be honest, I feel like we kind of have to, and I'm not going to be forced to go with our running back 3 a little bit too high, because we have 2 stable long-term options in J.K. Dobbins and Antonio Gibson. So we're going to be taking Curtis Samuel here at the very end of the 10th. Now, what we can do here is look at the QB position, because we really need a quarterback. Has Jameis gone off yet? I think maybe our best route is going to be going with a Jameis Winston, who looks like he should be the starter this upcoming season. So yeah, let's go with Jameis Winston. Maybe I'm missing someone that's on the board. Actually, it's between Winston and Goff. Now, I think we actually have to go with Jared Goff. It sucks. Goff is nasty, of course, but I think that we just take him going, you know what? He most likely is going to be their starting quarterback this year. So let's take Goff, hope that they don't go QB in the first round, because that is also entirely possible. let me know if y'all can see the entire draft board or if I need to go through and move anything around. Okay, Alejandro coming out here. Thank you so much, my man. Super excited to see you out. And let's see if we have any other questions in here. Legendary Steez coming out says, rookie fever is insane. Much prefer proven assets. Here, it's hard to say that the rookies are overvalued in this mock draft. I think it's just dependent on the rookie that was actually drafted, because we can point to the rookie quarterbacks in this mock draft. Guys like Mac Jones, guys like Trey Lance going in the middle of the 6th, Zach Wilson going at the end of the 6th. I mean, those QBs represent a ton of value. You could even make the argument that Travis Etienne, a player that I wanted to consider at the 301, was a great value at the 304. So I'll agree that some of the rookies here were overdrafted. I mean, guys like Jalen Waddle, I can't be taking this high. Guys like Justin Fields, I can't be taking ahead of Joe Burrow or Dak Prescott. But some of the other rookies are a little bit undervalued. So it just depends on the exact guy that we are looking at. Okay, Berto is asking us, do we like Fournette and Damien Harris as late round running back options? So with Leonard Fournette, obviously it's encouraging the fact that he does re-sign with Tampa. I think that was best case scenario for Fournette. But at the end of the day, he's playing on a team that just spent a 3rd round pick on a running back in Keyshawn Vaughn. And while we hated Keyshawn Vaughn, I do not want it to sound like we liked Keyshawn Vaughn last year. No, Keyshawn Vaughn was the rookie I was lowest on last offseason, and it was because he was incredibly old at the running back position. We preferred Ronald Jones over Vaughn, but at the end of the day, he was a 3rd round pick. That team probably is going to look to get him a little bit more involved now that LaShawn McCoy's out of the situation. Then you also have Ronald Jones there, left under contract, and Leonard Fournette is not signing the best contract with the team, not indicating that he is going to be their 3-down running back. Combining with the fact that on the case of Damien Harris was actually someone that I really liked last offseason, because you could have traded for him with a 3rd round pick in Dynasty. And we were looking at him going, you know what? We didn't see what he was in 2019 with his rookie year. He didn't get the opportunity. But we know that back in Alabama, he was actually a superb 3-down running back, and that he could catch passes. He could run between the tackles. He could get looks at the goal line. So we were excited that he had that 3-down upside at the NFL level, but similar to what happened with Sony Michel, another running back that we thought had 3-down running back upside, Bill Belichick and that Patriots team doesn't view him like that. They just view him as a 1st and 2nd down grinding running back, and a 1st and 2nd down grinder is not going to represent the same type of value unless they are playing on an offense that should be highly productive. That's not going to be the case in New England, combined with the fact that if Cam Newton is indeed their starter, Cam should be vulturing touchdowns at the goal line. So this is a long way to say that, no, we do not like Leonard Fournette and Damien Harris as late round targets. Okay. Mike coming out says, Sutton equals Claypool, and they're both over Juju. My opinion. Sorry, Mason. No, man, I'm completely fine with that. I mean, obviously, you are a lot closer to consensus with Claypool and Sutton both going in the mid to early 7th round, and me getting Juju Smith-Schuster all the way in the 9th. That's why I said I want y'all to be talking to each other, because a lot of the times my judgment is clouded. So y'all need to make sure that you're putting me in check. Okay, so now let's go through and see if we have any other questions that we can answer in the general chat. Okay, Graydon says he doubled down with the Cleveland Browns, taking Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. Here, Jarvis in the 10th round. Let me know what y'all think of this. And maybe I'm just being very biased with my own picks today, but I mean, I just can't get behind taking Jarvis over Curtis Samuel, because when you're taking Odell Beckham Jr., you're kind of hoping that Jarvis and Odell are going to find their ways to different NFL teams next season if you look at the 2 contracts given to the wide receivers. So maybe I am just overthinking this, but let me know what y'all think. Let me know if y'all would rather have Jarvis Landry, or actually, I can guarantee you I'd rather have Will Fuller over Jarvis Landry just based on the points per game production. Yeah, so, man, yeah, G-Pick, man, I don't mind your dynasty startup that we have going over on Patreon. Like, if you don't want to draft quarterbacks and you think the other positions are best value on the board, I think you've done a great job identifying what value has been there at wide receiver. Once you decide, I want a wide receiver here, I think you've been picking the right guys, at least in my opinion. Of course, I'm wrong all the time. But I think in this mock draft, man, you've fumbled the bag. I really don't like these past 4 picks. Okay, but Taysom Hill going off the board with the 11-10. Let me know, Taysom Hill, what y'all think about him as well, just because Hill is going to be such a polarizing player that we don't exactly know what to expect. We don't exactly know what his role is going to be. Okay, so Legendary Steez asking us, Mason, what is your take on productive struggle versus win now? Oh, you're saying in these drafts. You're saying productive struggle seems to have a higher upside. So, man, this is also something that a lot of people don't really understand how to implement. And I hate going into a draft going, you know what? This draft, I'm going to be going productive struggle. Because what you find a lot of the times is you go into a draft, and at least myself, I like to flow. Like, I like to be like water. I like to just go where the draft takes me. Where if you have 3 other teams in your league going productive struggle and they are collecting those future picks, they are drafting current 2021 rookies, then you're going to find out that the price that you're going to be getting to trade for those future picks is going to be at a massive discount. You're not going to indeed actually be able to accumulate as much value as you think, just because the competition for those picks is going to be a little bit higher. So I hate to give this answer because it sounds lazy, but it's the correct answer, to be honest. Man, with productive struggle, it's going to be completely dependent on what the other people want to do in your league. So this is why I always advise you actually deciding when you're making your first round pick to be going with players that you have the flexibility to go one way or another. You have the flexibility to build a win now team, or you could go productive struggle out the gate. So this is with taking players like, just say, DeAndre Swift ahead of Nick Chubb. You take DeAndre Swift in the first round ahead of Nick Chubb, then you have the flexibility of saying, you know what, let's wait to see what trades are done in the league. Let's wait to see what my other league mates are thinking, because if they all want to go win now, then we can flip over. We can go productive struggle, and we can get a ton of value trading for those future picks. And you have a player like DeAndre Swift, which is going to hold his value going into next season, so you don't have to worry about that pick. But say you take a Nick Chubb and a Derrick Henry with your first and second round pick. All of a sudden, then you're like, crap, if nobody else is going productive struggle and you have some of the other teams in your league also wanting to win now, you have a tough field to go against, just because the value isn't necessarily going to be there. Okay, also, let me point out that probably the best pick that we've seen in the past 3 rounds is actually Chase Edmonds with the 5th pick and the 12th. Here with Edmonds, I understand that we are worried about another NFL running back coming in the NFL draft. But what you have to do is you have to look at the draft capital that Arizona has, and they're not loaded up with picks. I mean, they traded that second round to pick away last year for DeAndre Hopkins, and it's going to be hard to see them. I believe they have the 17th overall pick, decide to go with a Travis Etienne and Najee Harris in the first. So yes, in theory, Chase Edmonds could be a running back replaced by the NFL draft, and that was my initial thought whenever Kenyon Drake signed elsewhere. But then you really dive into the capital that you have Arizona being able to go and play around with, and simply, I just don't know if they have the flexibility to be pursuing a running back that could take the job from Chase Edmonds. Okay, now if we are going through, if we are going to be looking for our next player, I think now we probably have to start going at the running back position. It's going to be gross. I mean, some of these guys on the board are just absolutely disgusting. I probably should have been looking at this instead of talking about productive struggle, but of course, we can just skim through this really quickly. Okay, so Darrell Henderson, definitely going to be someone that we love in the 12th round, given the fact that when he did get the opportunity last year, he did thrive, and Malcolm Brown is out of the situation, and the overall offense should be more productive than it was last year. So if he does get an opportunity based on a Cam Akers injury again in 2021, he should vastly exceed what he had last season, and last season he was already making your starting lineup. So we like that pick, combined with the fact that Darrell Henderson is still on his rookie contract. So there are a ton of things pointing to the fact that Henderson is a value once you get to this 12th, 13th round turn. Now, I want to take a wide receiver, but simply we have 6 of them. I think we need to go with our running back 4 before we decide to do that. Now we're in an intriguing spot where I'm just going to take an upside play. This is very similar to what I'm saying with Chase Edmonds, in that I would naturally assume that he would lose his job in the NFL draft until you dive into the draft capital his team has. But we're going to be taking Raheem Mostert. This is a pick that I'm not very confident in, but you go through and San Francisco doesn't have the capital that they can really go and pursue one of those top running backs. They can't be really taking a Javonte Williams now that they've traded future draft classes for that QB3. Hopefully it's a Trey Lance. Hopefully it's a Justin Fields, not Mac Jones. But when you have a lack of draft capital over the upcoming seasons, it's going to be hard for you to go out there and spend a luxury pick on a running back, because a running back is a luxury pick. You see this time and time again, that the teams go out there and win the Super Bowl, they have a complete roster, then they decide to draft the running back. They don't draft the running back when they're limited on assets. Okay. Alex saying, weird as some players are going over Robert Tonyan. I'll say with Robert Tonyan, he's actually had a decent offseason so far, because I was initially projecting him to lose his job, have competition for targets. I thought that Green Bay was going to end up taking a wide receiver in free agency. I thought that they were going to be in the market for Will Fuller. And Robert Tonyan was a massive player last year based on the fact that you didn't have Green Bay with a ton of target competition for Davante Adams. And when there was no target competition for Davante Adams, their wide receiver 2 just ended up being Robert Tonyan pretty much, with Marquez Valdes-Scantling stretching the field. So if you saw some other wide receivers coming in, you would expect the target share to dip. Also, he was an outlier in terms of his touchdown production. But yeah, I mean, he dodged some bullets in NFL free agency, so I don't exactly hate taking him here in the 13th round. Okay. Okay, Joseph saying, hey, Mason, mind scrolling up? I just got here. Yeah, I'll scroll up for you, my man. Let me hide this real quick so everybody can see the draft board. Let me know if there's anything that y'all cannot see. Of course, you can pause it here. Let me scroll down slightly just so y'all can see the bottom as well. And now let me put my beautiful face back on it, just because I know y'all probably miss me. But let's go through and see if Azion saying thoughts on the 106 team. Okay, so let's go pick by pick with the 106 team. Jonathan Taylor, love the pick at the 106. Tyreek Hill. Once you pass on the Josh Allen, Justin Herbert in the first, I probably would prefer to see you go with the Joe Burrow or Dak Prescott, especially knowing you can get some wide receiver value later on. But, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if you want to take Hill in the second, that's not going to be too bad. Now, where I have a problem is I have a problem taking DeAndre Hopkins in the third when you have A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf, these wide receivers that are younger, that are still as productive as DeAndre Hopkins. Don't like that. Darren Waller in the fourth, I'm fine with. Devontae Smith in the fifth. Very similar to what I was saying with Jalen Waddle in the sixth. I think with Devontae Smith, you can't be taking him ahead of a T. Higgins. T. Higgins had a nice prospect profile coming in last year, attached to a very good quarterback, and still extremely young. So T. Higgins, I think you want over Devontae Smith. Carson Wentz at the 607. Man, I hate this pick as well, to be completely honest, because the Colts are actually incentivized to bench Carson Wentz if he's not playing well. I mean, if he's not playing well, they're going to be quick to bench him, so they don't have to give up a first-round pick, and instead they're just giving up a second-round pick in this next year's NFL draft, compared to a Zach Wilson, who's guaranteed a starting job for the next 3 or 4 years, given he gets selected with the second overall pick in the NFL draft. So yeah, I don't like the Carson Wentz pick. 7th round, Chase Claypool, fine with the Claypool. Pittman in the 8th, to be honest, I think you have to go Juju. I think you have to. You have to. I don't care if I'm too high on Juju. I don't like the Bateman pick in the 8th. I'm fine with Hollywood in the 9th. I'm fine with Tylan Wallace in the 10th. Chuba Hubbard, because of his pro day, I think he's a little bit too high here in the 11th. Darnell Mooney, I'm fine in the 12th. J.D. McKissick, I'm fine in the 13th. Okay, also, guys, I'm very sorry. I didn't want people drafting defenses here. Let me remove this. That is entirely my fault. Let me give Ickelwick another opportunity to draft a non-defense. That is completely my fault, guys. I do have defenses and kickers in this mock draft. Okay, Dom Cost saying turn on notification for Tyler. Yeah, guys, if y'all missed getting in this mock draft and you want to get in the next one, the number one thing that you can do is just go down there and turn on your notifications for the channel. But anyway, here we are just going to be putting in a pick for him just because he took that defense and really shouldn't have done that, but that's my fault. We'll give him Devontae Parker, best wide receiver available according to ADP. But yeah, guys, and also I'm sorry if I go over your team and I sound like an ass, like I sound like I think I know everything. I don't intend to sound like that. That's just how I come across, and I understand that's probably something I should work on, but I'm going to continue to try to be as honest as I can. I don't want to be here and just be a cheerleader telling everyone, I love this pick, I love this pick, I love this pick, because we don't get better when we do that. I'm wrong all the time. But at the very least, the best thing I can do is give y'all my 100% honest opinion, even if that means I'm sounding like an ass. Also, guys, if you are just now getting into this live draft, if you missed out earlier, I want to give everyone an announcement. If you are currently signed up to Patreon, guys, now that I'm graduating, I'm going to have significantly more time to devote over on Patreon. So what I did is I lowered the cost of those tiers on Patreon, but I wasn't able to manually adjust your pledge. So if you're on Patreon, and I promise you, you're not getting anything less. All you have to do is you go edit and move your subscription over to a new tier. You get even more stuff. You have access to our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Kit if you're a Mother Flocker, and you also have access to our Rookie Draft Kit if you are in that tier as well. All you have to do is switch over. It costs less. I just wanted to make sure that I'm giving y'all as much as I can. So I'll send that link out in the live chat right now. So please, guys, go over and here, make sure that you are editing your pledges, or if you want to support the show on Patreon, now it costs less and you get more. So make sure you head over there and go do that. You don't have to shoot me a DM. I don't do anything on my end. I've already set it up where you can go through and you just get a discounted rate compared to what you had. Okay, I sent that link out in the general chat. Okay, perfect. Alex coming in with the donation. Thank you so much, my man, saying for the honesty. No, thank you, my man. Thank you so much for just always coming in and supporting the show. I truly appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Mason says, Mason Mills, so not Mason, not me, says, best draft so far, go to our boy The Flock, C Money, and Divine Torture. Okay, so let's check out C Money. I think we've already talked about Divine Torture. At first, I'm on the clock real quick. I definitely would have been taking Cam Newton and Jimmy Garoppolo, Ben Roethlisberger if they fell to us. But here I think what we do is we take our backup tight end, and then we go through and see what else we need. A tight end that I hated last offseason with this price, but now his situation is significantly better, seeing a quarterback upgrade combined with less competition for targets, is Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee as your tight end 2 in the 14th round. Really like that pick. Now, we can go running back here. Probably should go running back. Only have 4 running backs on the roster. Here, like I said earlier, actually, no, here, I don't care that we ended up having Chris Carson coming back to Seattle. Rashad Penny, have to take him. Former first-round pick in 2018, the same draft of Nick Chubb. Actually went ahead of Nick Chubb in the NFL draft. We're going to be taking Rashad Penny there. Let me check out C Money's team real quick and get your opinions on it as well. Okay, so C Money was here with the 108. Took Herbert at that. Love that pick. Akers in the second. Probably the best pick in the round. Aaron Jones in the third. Don't mind the pick. I personally wouldn't go there, but decent value, so can't go wrong with it. George Kittle in the fourth. Love it. T. Higgins in the fifth. Love it. Keenan Allen in the sixth. Love it. Kareem Hunt in the seventh. I actually like the Kareem Hunt in the seventh pick. Obviously, I wasn't going to take him over Mike Evans, but if you're taking him over Cooper Kupp, DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, I'm fine with that. Then Mac Jones. Okay, yeah, C Money definitely killed this draft. Okay, I am over here from the 101. C Money has a better draft than me, guys. I think that is safe to say. Let me know what y'all think in the general chat right now. But going through pick by pick, I think C Money probably won this draft. Just selection after selection, I think he was going best player available. I mean, getting Chase Edmonds in the 12th to go with this. Yeah, C Money won this draft. He had a much better draft than I did. There's no way we can hide from that. Let me show you the later rounds at the same time. Okay, so I think we should be good. Let's get these last picks in here, and then we can take a screenshot of the mock draft. And I want your opinion on what the best team was. I will also say AJ Green in the 15th over KJ Hamler. Really don't like that pick. I'm assuming Philip Rivers maybe was a timeout pick. That makes absolutely no sense for me. But let's check the general chat. GTZ asking us, what do you think about the Joe Mixon pick? Okay, so let's go see where Joe Mixon was selected. Okay, so in the 4th round, here, when you're taking Mixon, he does have that access to elite level upside. Nobody's going to be surprised if Joe Mixon is a top 3 running back this year. But the problem with investing in a Joe Mixon in Dynasty is so many people are already off of him. What you're going to find is if he does have a disappointing season this upcoming year, his dynasty value is just going to straight up plummet. And also you look at the contract, and it's not a Dalvin Cook. It's not an Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott type contract where he's guaranteed to be the starting running back for Cincinnati for a very long time. It's more so the Derrick Henry contract where he's not guaranteed to have that feature down role forever. Okay. Okay, Alex is saying, what happens to Bateman if he goes to Kansas City? If Bateman goes to Kansas City, Bateman definitely jumps up to, at the very minimum, our wide receiver 3. Now, if Bateman goes to Kansas City and then you have Devontae Smith going to Philadelphia at 12, then I am fine with anybody ranking Bateman as their wide receiver 2 over Devontae Smith, despite me thinking that if we were just ranking the prospects purely, that Devontae Smith is clearly the better option. But of course, landing spot is going to have to play into this. So whatever wide receiver lands with Kansas City, despite what I thought about them coming into the year, is going to see a massive bump up. Okay, so let me hide this real quick and y'all can see the full-on draft board. Now, guys, if y'all have not already, make sure you go down there and drop a like on the live stream. It helps us out so much. And, of course, if you want to get in our next mock draft, what you need to be doing is you need to be going out there and subscribing to the channel, and more importantly, turning on those notification bells next to the subscribe button. Now, I understand a lot of people watch this where they aren't signed into a Google account. Maybe they're watching this on a TV that they have set up in their office or something. And yeah, obviously you can't subscribe and turn on notifications there. So if that's your case, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But if you're watching this on your phone, if you're watching this on your computer, you should be able to subscribe, turn on notifications. So yeah, go down there, drop a like. And lastly, I want to remind everyone, guys, go over to Patreon. If you're a current Patreon member, edit your pledge. I lowered the prices on Patreon for everybody to be able to go out there and make sure they aren't just, I want to make sure everybody's satisfied with what they are getting. Let me put it that way. So I'm going to send that link out in the general chat. And then I think that should be it. We passed 50 likes on the live stream. So of course I need to thank everybody for that. And yeah, I will see y'all with the video tomorrow. And that's it.